with us, and hopefully we won't have any mistakes that we're sorry for, but we'll enjoy ourselves. Donnie, would you please start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, to start tonight, we're going to begin with a presentation on Native Americans in the township and in the general area around the township. And the presentation will be by one of our fellow commissioners, Bill Minsker. So, Bill, it's all yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, members of the commission, and good evening to the audience. Tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about the first inhabitants of Lower Paxton Township, Pennsylvania, really the whole East Coast, and of course, we know them to be the American Indian. With some misconceptions, first of all, to talk about. The name Indian, as you probably know from even elementary school, the name Indian came about from where? The audience can tell me this. Christopher Columbus, when he landed in the Indies, was on a route to try to find a trade route to India. And he thought, and never learned otherwise, that he had discovered a new world, thinking he had landed in India and called the inhabitants Indians. Really, they are Native Americans because they're the first humans that came to our part of the world from Asia. And if I can direct your attention to the map that is over here on the tripod, this is a map showing the western side of Alaska where it almost touches the Soviet Union. And there is a small open passageway here called the Bering Strait, named after the discoverer that originally found it. And it is assumed, it is predicted, and pretty well understood that about 25,000 years ago, migrating nomadic people in search of warmer climate, better land, were migrating to the east and just walked across the land bridge, which is now a waterway called the Bering Strait. And they moved into our part of the world, becoming the Eskimos of today, becoming the American Indian, becoming the Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayans, becoming the darker-skinned Mexicans, people that live in the Caribbean. All of these people trace their ancestry to that migrating nomadic group of people who came across from the east to our part of the world through the Bering Strait. So they've been here a long, long time, long before our area was ever discovered by Europeans. Another misconception, it's an image we have in our mind, probably from movies and television, is the way in which our Indians on the East Coast lived. We're accustomed to seeing in movies, on television, the cowboy type movie of the Indians in the West. They were nomadic, they were roaming constantly, they lived in teepees, which could be very easily picked up and moved. They followed the buffalo. Our Indians were different. Our part of the world allowed them to settle down. And they did, and they became farmers, and they had permanent settlements, which you can see here. They lived not in teepees, but they lived in structures that were very acceptable, very much useful in our changing seasons. They were called longhouses. They were weather tight, and many families lived within the same building. They lived communally, and many historians say that Karl Marx and Engels, who came up with the theory of communal living, communism, used the lifestyle of the American Indian, used the lifestyle of British and European monks who shared all their necessary material to form the theory of communism. And this is the way the Indians lived. They still do today out west. In many ways, they still share their most important items. They share their workload in this kind of communal living. And our Indians here live this way too. So what you see here is one long house that would have been in a community of many, many of these that had a wall around the community for two purposes: to protect the settlement from roaming animals and to protect the settlement from roaming Indians that were not friendly with that particular tribe. Our Indians became known as Susquehannocks because they lived along the Susquehanna River, starting north in New York and flowing south through Pennsylvania into Maryland, becoming the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. And that narrow strip of land with about maybe 4,000 Susquehannock Indians at the largest number was where they lived during that time. They were first discovered, they were first written about by a historic person you know by the name of John Smith. In 1608, John Smith from Jamestown, the Pocahontas story you know from history, first wrote about the Susquehannocks that he met in the Chesapeake Bay at the mouth of this, at the ending, the terminus of the Susquehanna River. And he called them Susquehannocks because of the Susquehanna River. They really have a lot of names through history from different groups that gave them different names. The other most common name is Conestoga Indians, where they initially, at the end of their time, they ended up in a settlement in the community of Conestoga in Lancaster County, and I have to look at the date because I forget it. In 1763, a group of about 20 remaining Susquehannock Indians were massacred in a little settlement that they had by our people right here, known as the Paxton Boys. They were massacred, and at that point, there were no more living, full-blooded Susquehannock Indians anywhere. There are people even today who still claim that they have Susquehannock ancestry, Susquehannock blood, but not full blood. All full-blooded Susquehannock Indians ceased to exist in that raid, that massacre of the Paxton Boys in 1763 in the community of Conestoga outside of Millersville, Lancaster, in that area of Lancaster County. So our Indians were settled Indians. They were farmers. In fact, they taught us things about farming. You may know Indians taught the earliest European settlers new types of food that we never had any experience with. You're familiar with corn, potatoes, squash, popcorn. Where would some of you be without popcorn today? That came from the American Indians. And they also introduced the world, you're probably aware of this, to tobacco smoking. That came from the American Indian and became something that was quite popular in Europe after it was discovered and taken over to Europe. So our Indians here were farmers, they were settled, and they were quite polite. They were quite peaceful people when we came here. You must remember, we came from a settled Europe, where there were communities, there were roads, there was medicine, there was government, there was a society, there was an economy. We came here to a wilderness where there was nothing. We came to a wilderness, and some of the earliest settlements, you may recall, died out because they simply could not live over a longer period than what the existing food and animals allowed them to live. Once those were gone, they had no food. And we didn't know. We didn't have the materials to clear land. How do you get rid of all these trees without, as we would have today, the earth-moving equipment to clear land? They had to do all this by hand and by use of horses and things like this. So they had great difficulty. The earliest settlers who came here had great difficulty in learning how to exist in a wilderness because we had to go backwards in time. The American Indians taught us about fertilization, that you take a small piece of fish and put it with a seed that is planted into the ground. So they taught us some things in reference to how to live in a wilderness and to succeed. Then they turned against us later as you know the stories, when we started to cheat them, take advantage of them, get them drunk, and they would agree to anything with the use of fire water that they called our alcoholic beverages because of how it felt in their throat. And another misconception that you might find very interesting is this idea of scalping. We think of Indians as being the people who scalped. It didn't work that way. Scalping was used even before our area was settled by Europeans to show that an Indian was killed. And the scalp that was taken off of the top of the head of a dead Indian was turned in for a bounty because it proved it was from an Indian. Why?
The color?
The color of the hair. Look at our hair, those of us that still have. Look at our hair. We, as European people, normally don't have black hair. We have dark hair, brown, but we don't have black hair. And American Indians had black hair based on their ancestry coming from their migration across the world, across our part of the world. That's what they looked like. So to turn in a scalp with black hair to get a bounty for killing an Indian, it was provable because the hair was black. And the Indians adopted that also as they killed us. So that was not something that became connected to the Indians as being barbaric people. Really, we started that idea, and the Indians adopted that. So that's another misconception sometimes that is attributed to Indians, when really this was something in our history that maybe we should not be so proud about. But it's part of our history, and we should be aware of this. The last item I'd like to point out here is this third picture. The third picture shows the making of a canoe. What we understand as canoes from Indians out west is that they had no trees. So they had to build very flimsy canoes with bark and things like this. We used the entire tree, as you see here. We used the entire tree and would carve out of the tree by burning. They would carve out wood. So our canoes were very, very substantial structures in the rapid waters that we had here in Pennsylvania. And that's how they would make a canoe. They would use the entire tree and just carve it out and make it into a very strong structure for the waterways that we have here. Now what I'd like, and we'll end with, is a display of some Indian relics that are all from this area that were connected by the historian in Lower Paxton Township by the name of Nevin W. Moyer. This was part of his massive collection. Most of his collection, after he died in 1950, was taken down to the Hershey Museum. But some of his collection remained, and that's part of what I have here today. The first thing I'd like to show you is the way in which these items were attached to wood. And there were two basic types of attachments. There was a V-type attachment, and there was this more common one, which you'll see here at both types. And these were, of course, carved out of stone, which to me is amazing. And the stone type was very different. It could be flint, which could be made into a very sharp edge. If you check these, you'll see this is really quite sharp. Two types of quartz. There's a milky quartz and a stony, smoky type quartz that we had here in Pennsylvania. This is red shale. And the point on that, just really amazing how they could do this. If you come up to see this, please don't hesitate to handle these. Just please handle them carefully, but don't be afraid to pick them up. This is a rose quartz that is found here in Pennsylvania. And then in the very front, I have what are really arrowheads. And this is maybe a misnomer that sometimes we use. Arrowheads were very small. And these are arrowheads, very tiny, and they didn't weigh much. So they wouldn't pull down by their weight. They wouldn't pull down an arrow. Arrowheads were really quite small. What you see here mostly on the table are spear tips that were used for short distance. And they were quite effective and really really are amazing to me that the Indians could make this type of thing from stone using stone. So don't hesitate to look over these and handle them if you wish. Then there are some other items. These are larger spear tips that you will see. This is a firestone, where a stick, you've seen this many times, or maybe you've even tried this if you've been a scout, to make fire by twirling wood. And it would bore a hole into the stone. And this stone has 4 holes in it, a fire stone used for starting fire. Here are some chisels made out of very hard stone. Our colonists could have made things like this, or the Indians were doing this too. Or maybe this was not a chisel, but maybe it was a rolling pin, because it's so smooth, used to roll and crush corn, wheat, and things like that. Very, very smooth, so that probably was used quite over a long period of time for that type of a purpose. And then here are hand tools, or plows. I like this one, and notice the sharp edge on this. I think, based on how it fits into the hand, this was a hand working tool. It just fits so well into the palm of your hand, and you can try this and you'll see this. The rest of these were probably plows that were used to farrow the soil to plant seeds, and of course made out of stone. So that's the collection. You're welcome to come and look at this material, handle it if you wish. Just please, again, be very careful, but don't hesitate to do that. And that's what I wanted to tell you about our first settlers here, called the Susquehannock Indians. Are there any questions anyone has? Okay, well, hearing none, I am happy to introduce this material to you as an audience, and you're welcome to come and look at this material. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Bill. That was very interesting. And I find it, I love the fact of the artifacts that you brought. And it's amazing the people in our area that are that have uncovered either the spearheads or the arrowheads while even working in their yards. I mean, Native Americans in this area was very, very prevalent, and we take it for granted. We don't realize how much they were here. So again, thank you very much, Bill. We're going to move now on to our business meeting section. And to begin with, if you haven't seen it yet, Bob last month put on a presentation on the Forest Foot Farm. And if you go to YouTube and go to our channel and look for the Forest Foot video, I think you'll really enjoy it. And that's what brings some of our special guests here tonight. I'd like to welcome some of the members from the Chosen Friends Lodge 43. Their lodge is also associated with the orphanage that we spoke about this time last year. And there's a lot of history, and I just love that the lodge is here tonight and that they've supported our organization, and hope that it's a mutual relationship as we move forward. And actually, 2 projects that I'm going to talk about later in the meeting, I think hopefully will interest you all. Normally at this point we would approve the minutes, but we're going to delay those. We'll have those at our next meeting. So going into old business, the very first thing I'd like to discuss is that we, in the last couple months, we've had a vacancy come up on our commission, and we had one individual who submitted his application, and his name is Jay Purdy. Jay was was one of the co-founders, along with myself and several other individuals, that started the original Lower Paxton Historical Society, and which eventually turned into, over time, into this commission. Jay submitted the application. He has a huge love for history. Matter of fact, one of his standout items that he's done is, over the last couple years, he's actually been a judge for on the state level, and I think also on the national level, for the projects that high school students do for history. And he said they're amazing. So at this point, what I would like to do is ask for a nomination or a motion that we accept his application and submit that name to the Board of Supervisors for their approval. Motion, second? Bill seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, I will send the proper paperwork to the Board of Supervisors, and hopefully Jay will be joining us at the next meeting. Also, this being our very first time that we're live and on television is pretty interesting. We've been working at trying to video our presentations, and we do have a lot of capabilities here using the township's technology. But Amanda and I have been having several meetings, and it looks like we're going to try a couple other avenues to get some people in here that can make it really professional. And one of the areas is the Harrisburg School of Technology. So we're going to try that. I don't know if that'll work out or not, but we will be able to continue to record the presentations. I just think it would be nice if we can get that professionalism that Joanne used to give us with our old, and with what was his name? Pat. That Pat just did with the Forest Foot presentation. Going into new business, one of the very first things that I'd like to talk about is a new project that I would like to eventually ask for your approval here tonight. We all know St. Thomas Church, and in the church is an area of, well, a beautiful historical cemetery, and to the west of that cemetery is a set of woods. And in those woods, we know that there are a number of African Americans that are buried there. I think the last interment, Donnie told me, was around 1830. And I've been in contact with the church, and the minister has given us his blessing, but we would work with the Boy Scouts, because the Boy Scouts themselves want to do, we're going to go in and clean that out. I would just like to be able to bring a little bit more of a historical preservation into the project. So I'll be meeting with Kathy. She's the historian, correct? Yes. With Kathy, hopefully in the near future. She's supposed to be contacting me. Yes. And with that, what my vision would be is that we clean out the woods. You know, the woods will still be there, but we'll clean all the underbrush. If we can access, I've been in contact with a Dr. Stephen Berg, who's a history professor at Shippensburg University, and I attended a virtual seminar that he put on about black cemeteries in Pennsylvania, which is really quite interesting. And if anybody's interested in seeing it, I'll be glad to pass the link on to you. He did an excellent job. I was amazed. It not only was, like in our situation, probably slaves, but it went all the way up into through the Civil War, which is amazing because one of the higher percentages of African Americans that fought in the Civil War were actually recruited here in Pennsylvania. And I found that to be really quite interesting. So what I would like to do is work with Dr. Berg to see whether or not he has the ability to bring in ground penetrating radar. If we can clean out the area, do ground penetrating radar, and I would like to actually start a little bit east of the woods, because we really don't know where the burials started, because we know Princess Whitefeather is right along the that border, but there may be others. So to hit that whole area, and anything that we find that the professionals would be able to say, this is an anomaly of some sort, I feel it's a burial place, I would like to mark that, and then eventually have a permanent marker at each of those locations. And then I could foresee us putting like a walking path that goes through it, so people can visit the area, pay respects, and then also maybe have a little bit of signage, maybe kind of like what we had for the 3 airmen that were killed in 1951. And I really think it could be nice, and the Boy Scouts, I look forward to working with them, and then it would be their project also to keep it maintained. And Amanda and I have had a meeting or two about this, and we feel that there's resources out there that we can tap. We're just straight in the infancy of this, but I think it's a project that is 150 years, late, but we need to pay respect for these people that were buried in that area. And I feel that this commission, along with the Boy Scouts and along with some professionals, we would really, I think we can do a really nice job. So may I have a motion on this, please? Second?
I'll second.
Donnie, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And with respect to this project, this would come down the road, but and this would have to come with the approval of our Masonic Lodge friends here. The orphanage itself, Donnie has uncovered that that there's at least 3 people that were recorded as being buried from that orphanage. Oh, actually, it wasn't when it was the orphanage. It was when it would have been the senior citizen, home for the aged. And I don't know if any of you have been out to that area. It's extremely wooded, very wet. You can see a little bit of where, like the steps or something were from the original home and that. But I really think, again, with some hard work, we can uncover hopefully where those 3 were buried. And as I mentioned, Donnie has little news articles, and it's pretty interesting. What I found interesting was the Reverend in the one was that Quincy, John Quincy Adams, who was he originally was wasn't he a stagecoach driver, and then moved up here to Harrisburg and really became heavy in politics and that, and was quite a boom for the African Americans in the area in the early 1900s, getting some political power and some acknowledgement. Am I right on that? Yeah. So I find that interesting, and I would love to be able to discuss with you all that down the road, because I know that the main lodge in Philadelphia eventually said, hey, maybe someday we can put something here that can be good for the community, something educational, etc. And I would love if that before that happens, that we identify where these people were buried and preserve it, because just like Bill's discussion tonight about the Native Americans, unfortunately, like the PennDOT building sitting on top of one of their villages. I don't want to do that, in anything that we have control of. So those are my two new projects that I'm interested in. The first one, St. Thomas, that one's ready to kick off. And of course, I will work side by side with my archaeology committee here, and we will. I think we can do something really nice. So thank you for that support.
Dave,
Yes.
regarding the cemetery project, you're probably aware, but just to check, there is a very active scout group there at the church.
That's who we're partnering with.
Good, okay, and I'm sure they would find this very interesting.
Yes.
And secondly, Kathy Gifford and I are both on the historical committee there at the church, so I would be happy to be sort of a liaison between our group here and the church.
You can work with us on that, yes.
So, just as far as connecting, because we meet monthly, and here we meet monthly, so.
Yep.
Just so you know.
No, that'd be great if you, that'd be fine. I would, Reverend Schmidt?
Yes, Dan Schmidt.
Dan Schmidt, when I talked with him yesterday, what he said was, hey, I just want to make sure that you know that the Boy Scouts were interested in starting this project. And I can imagine, they want to maintain the historical integrity, but, I think that as a team, we can really, I think that'll work out nice. So I look forward to working with them.
Has Kathy told you about a project we've had, the historical committee has had for, 3 years, where we make tombstones, or we make stones?
She came in here and spoke that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, well,
yeah.
she would have shown some pictures, so maybe we can use that technology in identifying some of the things that we might find.
Yep, no, that'd be great.
It's really a simple activity.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And I'm also anxious for this Dr. Berg to get back to me. So I'm waiting to talk to Kathy. I'm waiting to talk to Dr. Berg. And I just wanted to make sure that I had your guys' support, to move forward on this. And I think it'll take off quickly. And I think we can do a nice job. And I think we can get a lot of, I already have a number of volunteers that are willing to give labor. And I think we can get a lot of volunteers to donate, like any bedding material or any material that we need for our walkways and such. So I look forward to it. Yes? 2 questions. Turn on your microphone, please.
2 questions. Dr.
Stephen Berg, B-E-R-G.
And is it S-T-E-V-E-N or P-H-E-N?
S-T-E-V-E-N.
Okay, second question. The second project, do we need to make a motion? Not, or do you want to hold off?
I'm going to hold off on that because I want to talk with lodge members and such and get approvals there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
One question, Mr. Chairman, and I think you already alluded to that, is that we would need to have some kind of printed or some kind of documentation to authorize our entry onto the land to look for those 3 graves.
Oh, yes.
So that should we be caught, we can we can say we have permission to walk on the land and to look for these grave sites.
Yes. We'll work with the Masons and the parent organization, if I said that correctly, the Philadelphia lodges, the main lodge, correct? Yeah. Grand Lodge. Thank you. Perfect. Parks, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was Parks and Rec. I just want everybody to think about this because it's coming up. Parks and Rec had asked us if we would be interested in joining their Easter egg extravaganza, where they want to basically have a trunk type of display, and she said that, like we did for Christmas, if we wanted to do anything, period-wise, dress up, make something fun, for the kids, maybe, and then have some candy handouts. I'm not sure what all we can do with that, because I know, like for the Christmas, we had that real nice postcard and such, and I would like to continue with their organization on that. On this, I'm not real sure where we'd go with that. Does anybody have any ideas? Yes. Oh, yes.
I do, in the lines of the postcard. Easter is in the spring. What about if someone can find a picture of Maple Park in the spring with all the grass, growth and trees and blooms and so on, and do a postcard? That seems to be it seems that that's becoming a signature item of the commission, so why not continue it?
Do you mean a hand-drawn one like we did before?
Yeah, exactly, the same type of thing.
We're looking at a couple weeks, and that would be asking a lot of our artist.
I can contact him, and what we would need to do is have some kind of a subject that would be appropriate. On the flip side, we have no budget, so purchasing candy is something that would be, for us, would be out of pocket,
Right,
because we don't have a budget to support any giveaways.
right. I mean, I have no problem giving some money myself
No.
towards it. And yeah, I think a couple of us would have no problem donating for that.
Plastic eggs?
Yeah, something. Mhm. It's just, again, we just need to make sure the candy is packaged. You know what I mean? Like a Hershey Kiss has the wrapper on it.
Miniatures.
Right. Anything, But if people are interested in this, I can have Donnie ask
Bruce Holroyd.
Bruce if he'd be interested in helping us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just need something for him to draw.
Bill probably could come up with something.
Somewhere in my collection of pictures, I have for one of the 4 churches in Linglestown, I forget just which one, but I have a picture, it's a picture, not a drawing, of the altar of the church decked out for Easter.
Oh, nice.
And it's from the 1800s. It's one of those postcard type pictures as we used for the Christmas card. I can search for that even tonight and let Donnie know what I discover. I can picture this picture. I'm just not sure which of the 4 churches it is.
Okay.
And you check with the artist.
I
and-
will check. And
I mean, I
and,
don't
Okay.
want
He
to.
may be watching tonight.
Oh, we could put an Easter greeting on the back of the card.
Oh, we could do something nice. It's just, we're looking at Saturday, March 27th at 11. It's from 11 to noon. So let's do this via email. Well, can I have a motion that we at least investigate this with the artist, and if he's willing to do it, then okay, motion.
I make a motion to do the investigation and so on for the possibility of a postcard for the Easter extravaganza.
And allow this to go via email for our final
Allow it to
approval.
go via email for the commission group.
Perfect. Can I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Donnie, can you take the lead just on that and email each of us on his
Okay.
intent? And please, don't let him feel pressured because he's done so much for us. I appreciate it.
I will contact him this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, that event it's only 1 hour from 11 until noon.
That's correct.
And I've already committed the Linglestown Kiwanis Club to that activity, so I'll be there, but I'll be with the Kiwanis Club.
No problem. I mean, I think I can be there and that, and I'll talk to Jay again and different things. The kids 2 to 10, they want their candy. Us as a historical commission, we want to get something nice out. So hopefully we can put the two things together. Okay? All right, let's, we'll wait for Donnie and see what we hear back. Are there any committee member comments? Bob, do you want to talk at all about cider press?
Maybe not yet.
Okay, no problem.
I want to get the cart or the
Horse before the
cider
car.
before
Yeah,
the press.
no problem. Are there any other committee member comments? Please keep in mind that we'll need a topic, if we can get one, for next month. So we'll see where that, where that all goes. Are there any public comments? No? No. All right. Well, we're gonna make life easy, and may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Call it a night.